Hi, hello everybody. I'm Justin. This is Koopa. Welcome to Koopa's Corner. Now today we're going to talk about the Royal Rumble. My absolute favorite event of the year just happened last night, February 1st, the 2025 edition. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. It had its ups, it had its downs. It was maybe one of the most stacked Rumbles of all time, maybe one of the best Rumbles of all time, with a few questionable decisions, including the winner. So let's just jump right into it. Buckle up. This is going to be a long one, guys. So much to say. So the card opened with the Women's Royal Rumble match. Now, the Women's Royal Rumble match, they did a very good job of making it feel completely different from the men's, right? It felt like they were more kind of waiting around for certain spots. There was a lot of surprise entrance in this one. They absolutely nailed it with surprise entrances. And, Charlotte Flair won the match, and that's who we predicted would win. It was the safe bet. She was probably the most boring option to be a winner. It is what it is, right? Charlotte Flair unfortunately has, the same thing that John Cena had years ago, the same type of thing that Roman Reigns has now, where it's just like, it's hard to bet against because she always wins everything. Hopefully she'll go up against Tiffany Stratton. That will be a much better matchup than with Rhea Ripley, in my opinion. I'd rather see that. My only concern is that they will take the title off of either woman, Rhea Ripley or Tiffany Stratton, and put it on Charlotte. Now, this becomes a much better decision, Charlotte winning and going to the main event, if she is there to put over that next generation of talent and not to win title number 15. But yeah, let's kind of get into the weeds a little bit with the match, right? So, okay, before the match started, right, a 3-man booth. Interesting choice, right? They haven't done that in a while, particularly amongst all of the Corey Graves drama. You would think if they were going to dabble with a 3-man booth, they'd put Corey in there and see how him, Pat, and Michael Cole all three get together. But they didn't do that, so I just thought it was interesting. I also thought it was really interesting that Michael Cole called Alicia Taylor the greatest ring announcer, and I just wanted to point that out because I strongly disagree. I think she's probably the worst ring announcer that they've ever had. I miss Samantha Irvine. Samantha Irvine was the best. Lillian Garcia is great. She's a legend, right? But she's back and she's solid enough, right? But even going back, I mean, JoJo, Brandy Rhodes, Tony Chimmel, Howard Finkel, like none of these people are worse than Alicia Taylor. So I just need to say that for my own, it was annoying me. So I wanted to say that. I thought it was interesting that they did 2 minutes instead of 90 seconds. Now, I didn't actually look at any of the entrance times. I don't know how true to that they were. But it felt fast. It felt faster than 2 minutes. But they made it a point in the beginning to say 2 minutes instead of 90 seconds. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, right? All right. First thing I want to talk about, entrant number 3, Roxanne Perez, right? First surprise of the night. Roxanne Perez is a star. I've said this in previous videos. I'm not an NXT guy. I'm not. I don't watch it. And that's, I used to back in the day, but I haven't in years. Not very familiar with Roxanne Perez. I know who she is a little bit. She's in the 2K games, and she's appeared on Raw and SmackDown a couple times. She was in last year's Rumble. So she wasn't an complete unknown entity, but she came in at number 3, and she was the last person eliminated before Charlotte won the match. She broke the record for the longest time in a Rumble match for a woman, and this was a star-making performance, right? She looked great among some of the biggest names in the industry. I think when this whole feud with Bayley, kind of fizzles out in NXT, this feud should be the catalyst for her call-up, right? If she's not called up by WrestleMania, then the Raw after WrestleMania is a must. No later than that. She's phenomenal. I mean, and that's based off of this Rumble performance alone. And that's all I really have to go off of. And last year's Rumble performance. But that was nothing special. So yeah, I wanted to start off with Roxanne Perez. That was a highlight of the night. Super pro. It was let me start that over. It was one of the big pros of the night, right? And we've got pros, we've got cons. That was one of the big pros of the night. Roxanne Perez. Let's see. We had Chelsea Green. Such a gem. I love Chelsea Green. I say this all the time, that she is an absolute gem. The first half of the Rumble match, easily, was carried by Chelsea Green's antics. She kept inserting herself into other people's rivalries, trying to make friends with people. She knows how to make the most of her minutes. And she is entertaining. Chelsea Green is one of the most valuable performers on the roster that they have. Even if she's not competing at the main event level. She is just absolutely phenomenal. So I loved Chelsea Green in there. All right, we had another surprise entrant in Lash Legend from NXT, right? I'm only familiar with her from when she was in Saudi Arabia last year, competing in the Fatal 4-Way for the women's tag titles. So looks like she's got some potential. Looks like she's got a high ceiling. So we'll see what they do with her going forward. But yeah, again, she's not somebody super familiar with. And of all the NXT callouts, I don't know if she really stood out the most either. But, again, solid performance. Another good decision. It seems like the NXT women's division is just absolutely stacked. So let's talk about next. Let's see. Okay, Maxine Dupree. I made a note about Max. I'm reading my notes. Maxine Dupree. She is still not good. She's not good. But this Rumble, compared to where she was, a couple years ago in that spot with Kelly, you can tell how much she has improved. And I think that she honestly would have just benefited from being in NXT rather than being on the main roster. I don't know if she did spend time in NXT. To be fair, I don't know that. It was very noticeable how much she has improved. So I thought that was awesome. I don't know what you guys thought. Have you noticed that with her? Right? She doesn't get a lot of opportunity in the ring, but it was noticeable. Again, still not good, but a lot better than she was. I just thought that was worth noting. Naomi had a couple sloppy moments. Honestly, Naomi is overhyped, man. Naomi doesn't live up to the bar that people put her as. She's solid, but she's not, phenomenal. She's decent. She's not great, right? She's B+. She's not an A. It's not a bad grade. If I got a B+ on a test, I'd be thrilled, and I was thrilled when I was in school. And if I got B's, I was happy, man. She's solid. It's not a knock on her, but I just feel like sometimes she's a little overhyped. That's all. Yeah, so that was Naomi. She had a couple of sloppy moments. It was enough that I made a note of it. She had more than one of them. She kind of messed that up a little bit. Jada Parker was another surprise entrant from NXT. Don't know too much about her, but another surprise entrant, Jada Parker. Jordynne Grace was a surprise entrant, this time as a part of the WWE roster. She looks very different than she did in last year's Rumble. She also had a hell of a moment when she delivered a Death Valley driver onto Piper Niven. So that was impressive. She had a few standout moments. I think that she's going to come in and she's going to make splashes in the women's division. She's going to be someone who injects a lot of star power, right? Because the women's division on the main roster is kind of weird, because you have some huge stars, and then you have just kind of a big gap, and then there's everybody else. You don't have a ton of that middle ground, unfortunately. I think Chelsea Green is kind of getting in there, but I don't think she's got too much company there. So hopefully some of these other women can get some opportunities and kind of elevate their star power soon. But yeah, Jordynne Grace I think is going to help with that a lot. All right, let's see. Alexa Bliss. That was the next surprise entrant. Little Miss Bliss. I love Alexa Bliss. Back when I did watch NXT and used to go to the NXT tapings, Alexa Bliss was, in NXT at the time, and I was there when she was, Glitter, Glitz, Sparkle Bliss. I was there when she was Blake and Murphy, Alexa Bliss. I liked all of her cosplay outfits, her Freddy Krueger, her Iron Man. She had a few good cosplay attires. And then coming up to the main roster, being the goddess, all of the stuff with Wyatt. Alexa Bliss is one of those performers that I feel like I've been on the journey with for a very long time. Not quite the same level as a Liv Morgan, but I like Alexa Bliss, right? And she's got star power. She's got a lot of star power, and it's much needed. It is much, much needed. I think this Rumble did a really great job of injecting a lot of star power where there wasn't any. And now WrestleMania feels like, there are so many options for women's matches, whereas before you were like, yeah, you could, but should you? And now it feels like, no, yeah, which way are you going to go? Because all of these would be great. So this Rumble did a great job with that. So excited to have Alexa Bliss back. And she came out a little bit towards, more towards her Wyatt character than towards her, goddess. And I think that that opens the door for some storytelling there. So I think that she'll probably be involved there and with Nikki Cross and with some other stuff, whether she's with them, whether she's being targeted by them. I expect that to be sort of her story in the immediate future. But I do think Alexa Bliss is back, and this wasn't like a one-time appearance, special Rumble appearance. So we'll have to see going forward with that. Zelina Vega did a top rope code red. I made a note about it because it was awesome. That was definitely a highlight reel move. And Zelina Vega is so underrated as well. A couple more surprise entrants. Stephanie Vaquer, Trish Stratus, right? Trish Stratus now. Stephanie Vaquer is an NXT superstar. It was my first time seeing her. She's got a lot of upside. We'll have to see, but she's probably going to go back to NXT. Trish Stratus is interesting because Trish Stratus is in phenomenal shape. She looks great, particularly given that she was a consistent WWE superstar 25 years ago. She's not a legend that's coming back from, 2010, 2015. She's coming back from 2000, and she looks great. She looks phenomenal. And this isn't the first time that she's sort of been in and out. She's kind of around sometimes. And a Rumble appearance like this makes you wonder, was it a one-off surprise for the Rumble? Or did she come back to start a WrestleMania program? Because she very easily and realistically could stick around through WrestleMania and have a WrestleMania program with somebody. And so I think that one of the biggest question marks coming out of the Royal Rumble was Trish Stratus. What do you guys think? Do you think she's back? Do you think she's back at least through WrestleMania? If so, who do you want to see her face at WrestleMania? Let me know in the comments, because Trish Stratus to me was one of the big question marks of the night. And I'd be excited to have her back, absolutely. And then let's see, we had a couple more, Julia and then Nikki Bella. Surprise entrance there. There are a couple of other notes that I have, right? The spot where half the field eliminated themselves, basically. They all climbed out of the apron and then Nia Jax pushed them off. It was dumb. I thought it was dumb. I think Charlotte, I mentioned a little bit in the beginning, Charlotte winning was probably the most boring option, but it was probably the safest option. It probably was the right decision as well. From a storytelling perspective, it probably was the right decision, even if it is a little bit on the boring side. I think another thing I want to note out here is there was no Becky Lynch. There was no Jade Cargill. Two huge names missing from this. And both were names that I expect to be back for WrestleMania programs. Jade could have come back in, cleaned out Naomi, cleaned out Bianca Belair, before being taken out from behind by somebody else. And that would have been enough that we would have Raw or SmackDown. She would have, you know, she could have come out and said, "Oh yeah, they were behind my attack," and then Bianca and Naomi could have denied it, and it could have turned into a whole thing. I'd rather see Bianca and Jade 1-on-1 come WrestleMania, but if you give us a triple threat and you throw Naomi in there, that's fine too. It's not as good, but it's fine too. You know, so that didn't happen, and her coming back, making her return anywhere else between now and WrestleMania, it's just going to have less impact. I understand it was a very star-studded Royal Rumble match, and you thought, oh, well, maybe, you know, there's a little too much star power here. We don't want to take away from other people's returns, and we can save it and create a big pop going forward in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks at maybe Elimination Chamber. Who knows? Or maybe she's really legitimately injured and she won't be back for WrestleMania, which would be so unfortunate. But yeah, I just thought that was noticeable by their absence. And to be honest, even with the other returns, they still could have done it. We didn't need BFAB. We didn't need Maxine Dupree. We didn't need Natalia again. You know, there were superstars in this match that could have been left off for a Becky Lynch, for a Jade Cargill. So very noticeable by their absence. Otherwise, there was a few fun spots in the match, some really great shows of athleticism, some really good storytelling from the beginning of the match all the way to the end, right? I mean, everything from Ivy Nile eliminating Lyra Valkyria to Maxine Dupree eliminating Ivy Nile to, you know, the NXT OGs, you know, the four horsewomen, Bayley and Charlotte, and, you know, standing side by side, well, you know, with Bianca while they faced off against Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, and then Roxanne Perez. So a little, you know, 3-on-3 future versus past moment was a great moment. The trope of everybody gangs up on Nia because she's, you know, a little bit bigger than them. It was kind of played out, but they did it, you know. It was just all in all, tons of surprises. A lot of these performers really showed up, and the Women's Royal Rumble match was, all things considered, it was very good. It's very good. So we moved on from there to the 2 out of 3 tag team falls. 2 out of 3 falls tag team match. DIY versus the Motor City Machine Guns. In this match, I personally was so excited for it. I think all 4 of these guys are incredible athletes. I expected a really fast-paced match, and it failed to live up to the hype, honestly. The match was fine. It's not a bad match. Yeah, it was not a bad match, but it was nothing special. And this would have been a great main event of Raw or Saturday Night's main event, right? But not quite PLE level. This could have been the main event of an NXT takeover, but not the Royal Rumble. It was not Royal Rumble quality match. The Street Profits returned. They interfered. They cost the Motor City Machine Guns the titles, but then they also attacked DIY afterwards. So they're inserting themselves here in a program that might eventually involve, based on what we've had the past few weeks, Pretty Deadly, maybe Angel and Humberto Carrillo. And, you know, get some big multi-man tag match at WrestleMania. So we'll see. We'll see how this all moves forward. But this was almost handicapped by this story rather than excelling because of it. And, yeah, it just failed to live up to the hype. It was fine, but it did not deliver the way it should have delivered given the competitors involved. Next up was the ladder match for the WWE Championship. Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens. Let's just take a moment of silence for Kevin Owens because he's dead now. He died in this match. That Alabama slam onto the ladder at the end, and he's dead. So moment of silence for Kevin Owens. But, you know, if you're going to die as a performer, maybe you know, Owen Hart would disagree, but at least he died, you know, in a match. It was brutal. It was a very slow start. It took a little while to ramp up, but each of the big spots was absolutely disgusting. I mean, it was brutal. It was brutal. was a brutal ladder match. And Kevin Owens, to me, I had a thought during this match that he kind of reminded me of the Joker. Right? The Joker doesn't necessarily care if he's killed by Batman. Because even if he dies, he doesn't care about that. If he dies, he wins. Because he got Batman to kill him. And Kevin Owens may have lost the title, but he basically got Cody to turn to the dark side in this match. And, I mean, he's been right about what he's been saying for weeks, Kevin Owens. If not longer. But it almost felt like Cody was fully embracing that dark side in this match. And I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be, but that's what it felt like. And so Kevin Owens, you might not have the title, but you got Cody Rhodes to show his true colors. So who really won? Right? And that's the thought that I had. I just kept comparing him to the Joker in that way. But yeah, I mean, just absolutely disgusting, brutal ladder match. Kevin Owens also had new gear. He wasn't in his usual shorts. I just thought something I noticed and jotted down. Also, what the fuck was the point of Saturday night's main event and them surrendering their titles to hang the titles if they both got them back and walked out to the ring with them anyway? Right? That's my only really complaint with this match, and it was such a nothing thing to the match, and they could have not done it and it wouldn't have changed anything. But by doing it, it really just kind of left you scratching your head and you're like, that is stupid. But otherwise, I don't really have anything jotted down. It was brutal, and Kevin Owens died. Like, that's it. You know, I honestly, based off of that last bump that he took, like, will he even be back for WrestleMania? They could use that to write him off of TV for 6 months, a year, whatever, and no one would bat an eye, because it's just, I mean, literally when it happened, I just kept thinking, oh, he's dead. He's dead now. Like, it was that brutal of a spot. So if you missed the finish of the match, check it out. Cody Alabama slammed Kevin off the announce table through a ladder, and Kevin, like, he looked like he broke his neck. He looked like he died. So then we get the men's Rumble match. And wow, this was something. This was something. This was maybe the most star-studded Rumble match in history. They've been billing it as that, advertising it as that, and it definitely lived up to that hype. The problem is, you didn't choose any of those stars to win. You chose Jey Uso. Jey Uso, Main Event Jey Uso, won the Royal Rumble match. I know a lot of people who don't hate that. But I hate that. I do. And maybe another year I wouldn't have felt that way, but this year I did. I've been critical of Jey Uso on the channel before. I don't dislike Jey Uso. I don't dislike him. I think he's really talented, but I don't think he's main event level material. He can't cut a promo worth a damn, right? He can barely speak. And his in-ring ability it lends itself to tag team wrestling. He struggles as a single star. He's got a great entrance, and he's super over with the crowd, but he's an entrance and he's a catchphrase. He's got, his catchphrase is great. It sells a lot of t-shirts. That's all he is. He's an entrance and a catchphrase. His match at WrestleMania last year was not only the worst match of the card, but might have been one of the worst matches of the year. One-on-one with Jimmy Uso, his twin brother, the one person in the world he should have more chemistry with than anything. He's faced Gunther for the title a couple of times, and he's fallen short every time, and he looked completely outmatched every time. Not only that, but in the post show, he teased going after Gunther again. After spending years in the bloodline, after knowing Cody needed to go after Roman in that title, because Cody going after, the other one, it wasn't the one. He wouldn't have finished the story, even though that would have, if he had gone after Rollins, that would have freed up us to get Rock and Roman like we should have. And instead, no, the Cody Crybabies stopped that, right? He needed to finish the story, and the only way he could finish the story was that title, because that's the title. And Jey was involved enough in that story to know that. So if he actively chooses to go in another direction, it's stupid. It makes him as a character seem stupid. Because they have spent the past how many years telling us that that title is lesser. Because come Crown Jewel, Gunther couldn't be Cody Rhodes. When Cody won the Rumble, he chose to go after Roman and not Seth Rollins. Like, multiple times have they told us that title is less important. So why Jey would consider it, it doesn't make sense. Right? But at the same time, if he goes after Cody and goes after that title, well, you already have one title match that's going to be kind of mid. Do you really want it to be your bigger champion? Do you really want it to be Cody Rhodes? You're in a position now where kind of whichever way he chooses, it's not good. Right? It's just not. You've put yourself in a situation where either way you come out looking dumb. And that's bad booking. Right? Jey Uso could very easily have had a strong performance in the Rumble and then gone on to face Braun Breaker, gone on to face Shinsuke Nakamura, won himself a singles title at WrestleMania, the Intercontinental title, the United States title. And it would have been great. It would have been a huge moment. And I'd have been, cheering for him. And it would have made a lot of sense. It would have been good storytelling. I'd have been super pumped for him. Right? He sort of took the title from Breaker once before. Didn't hold it for very long, but he took it from him once before. I was worried it was going to kill Breaker's momentum a little bit. But if he does it again, not until WrestleMania and Breaker has that title for a few more months, I don't think that's really something to worry about. That would have made a lot more sense. But up until that point, up until that final moment when Jey won, it's a great match. Great Rumble match. One of the best in history. It legitimately was. It was one of the best Royal Rumbles in history up until the final moments. And the winner, for me, it brought it down a lot. I don't know how often I'm going to go back and rewatch this one the way I do some of the other ones. Right? So let's kind of get into the weeds a little bit like we did with the women's match. This one had significantly less surprise entrance, but you have so much star power on the main roster that you hardly needed it. It's fun for a Rumble match, and it wasn't as present here as it was in the women's match. Rey Mysterio and Penta 1 and 2, teasing, a great Lucha Showdown, teasing a dream match. Penta screwed up a little bit. Both feet touched the floor. They only pretended it was one, but both feet touched the floor in a spot where he was supposed to be, really close and saving himself. And, so Penta was eliminated, even though he wasn't. Like, they kept him in the match. They said it was 1 foot, but, he fucked up. He was eliminated. Aside from that, the storytelling in the beginning was super strong, because then Chad Gable came out. Santos Escobar came out shortly after that. You had a bunch of the Lucha stars with Chad Gable, who's out of nowhere, he can't fight luchadors. So there was some strong storytelling there, honestly. Start the match. Braun Breaker comes out. Braun Breaker just, he's such a dominant force with such a bright future. Braun Breaker had a couple of moments where he shined. Then Akira Tozawa comes out, and right after Carmelo Hayes was eliminated, he attacks Akira Tozawa on the apron. Or not on the apron, I'm sorry, on the entrance ramp, the ramp. He attacks him on the ramp, and it's like one clothesline, and Akira Tozawa can't compete anymore. And so then Triple H makes this big thing, like, backstage, if we need a replacement, you're in. And it's IShowSpeed. So, huge surprise entrance from IShowSpeed, first surprise of the night in the men's match. And, the whole charade, the whole story up in, of Akira Tozawa being attacked, it was fine, but it was unnecessary. IShowSpeed could have just come out when the buzzer went off, and it would have been the same thing. He took a hell of a spear from Braun Breaker, so props to him. He didn't last super long, but he got a pop, and he was a surprise. He was a legitimate surprise. So, yeah, that happened. And then we had, let's see, a few more names. Nothing too special happened up until number 15. Number 15 halfway through, Joe Hendry. I was losing it. I was so excited. I mean, that was the best surprise they could have done. I definitely predicted him as a surprise entrant, as so many people did. And he got a huge pop. I think, honestly, the worst part about that for me was the announcers were sort of knocking him a little bit. And it's like, hey guys, don't laugh at his expense. Put him over a little bit, right? He's a world champion in the other promotion. He's done stuff with the company before, and he just got a bigger pop than half of your superstars did. So maybe don't knock him, right? I just, yeah, the announcers just kind of were joking about Joe Hendry a little bit. And otherwise, I thought it was great. He had a huge moment. So yeah, Joe Hendry was a surprise. And then Roman Reigns comes out, Drew McIntyre comes out, Finn Balor comes out. I was scratching my head a little bit with Finn Balor because he was too hurt for the tag title match a couple weeks ago, but now he's back. He was back in the Rumble. Was it supposed to be a surprise? Was it not really a surprise because he wasn't really gone that long? They didn't really tell a story with him kind of leading into this. So I don't really know if Finn Balor was a surprise or not. And it just didn't make a lot of sense based off the story they were telling before the Rumble. So, Finn Balor, an incredible athlete. I'm not upset to see him, but it just didn't make a lot of sense. AJ Styles, big surprise return for AJ Styles. He would have been a better option to win than Jey Uso. Also, for the record, I had predicted in my video that CM Punk would win in my preview and predictions video, right? And then SmackDown came, and I honestly had a moment on SmackDown when CM Punk was in the ring with Kevin Owens where I was like, oh, he's not going to win. He's pushing this a little too much. How about how it's his dream? Just a little too much. He's not going to win. And even though I came to that realization, I did not think it would be Jey Uso. I was like, at that point, I was like, you know what? It's probably going to be Roman. Roman and Charlotte shouldn't be a surprise, right? And from a storytelling perspective, if Roman wins and then CM Punk doesn't win, CM Punk talks to Paul Heyman, uses his favor, and he can now get himself inserted into the match in like a triple threat match. So my official prediction was CM Punk because I already made my video and I'll stick with that. But I had changed my mind to Roman Reigns. And I was wrong twice. Because I don't think anybody predicted Jey Uso because it didn't make a lot of sense. But AJ Styles, Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns, all in the match so far, all would have been better options. Braun Strowman comes out after taking a hell of a beating from Jacob Fatu on Saturday night's main event, and he eliminates Jacob Fatu. It was a little bit of an unceremonious jump out of the ring for Jacob Fatu. I thought Jacob Fatu might come in a little bit earlier and sort of have the Iron Man, like maybe, or the most eliminations, just throw them out as they enter type of a thing. Make him look strong. I don't think Jacob Fatu was ever going to win, but I'm surprised that he wasn't in longer. I'm surprised he didn't get more eliminations. And I'm surprised that he just sort of got thrown out so easily by Braun Strowman of all people. But, both guys, absolute powerhouses. And, again, just adding star power to this already stacked match. John Cena is next. CM Punk after that. Sami Zayn is in there. Another better option than Jey Uso. All three of them would have been better options. Damian Priest comes out. LA Knight comes out. Another better option than Jey Uso. Logan Paul, like him or hate him, that is a much bigger match for Gunther than Jey Uso. That's the problem with this match is there were so many stars in this match that, going with Jey Uso, it didn't make a lot of sense. You played it a little too safe with Charlotte, in my opinion. even though that probably was the right decision. And you overcorrected here. You didn't play it safe enough. You know, it was already unpredictable based off of the amount of star power. Roman, Punk, Cena, Rollins all could have won. Sami Zayn, LA Knight, AJ Styles, Drew McIntyre all could have been realistic choices to win. Logan Paul could have been a very realistic choice to win. Like you're at about a third of the field, right? Like you're at 9. You're at 9. You're basically at a third of the field of all realistic possibilities. It already was unpredictable. And this felt more like a swerve for the sake of a swerve. Otherwise, I mean, there was just some strong moments in the ring, top to bottom, good performances. The people who needed to shine shone. I could have personally used another NXT superstar or two. We had so many in the women's match, nobody here. Another surprise or two would have been nice, but it wasn't necessary. The match was great right up until the end. And it leaves the door open for WrestleMania now. There are so many possibilities going forward for WrestleMania, and I'm interested to see what they do. Because, I made my wild predictions, at the 6-month out mark. I have that video on my channel, way too early predictions for WrestleMania. And right now, some of them are coming to fruition, some of them not. We did not get an appearance by The Rock at all. I thought we might. I thought we probably should. If Roman's not going to win and Roman's not going to be in the title match, he needs to be facing The Rock. And if we're not going to get Roman versus The Rock, then that makes, Cody getting the title match last year instead of us getting Rock versus Roman last year. It makes it that much worse. It's one thing if you put it off for a year. It's another thing if we just don't get it now. Very conspicuous by his absence was The Rock. Otherwise, very solid, guys. Very solid Rumble. I'm excited to see what happens going forward. Elimination Chambers in a month, March 1st. That's going to set up the other title match. We're going to get Raw. We're going to get SmackDown this week, where they hopefully will start indicating who our Rumble winners want to face. Again, Charlotte, in my opinion, would be better off against Tiffany Stratton, and Jey Uso would be better off against Cody Rhodes, particularly if Cody is turning to the dark side now. I don't think that's what's going to happen with Jey Uso, though. I think that he's going to go after Gunther again. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. What do you guys think? How do you feel about our Rumble winners? I know I was a little critical of Jey Uso. I just, looking back at his performances over the past year, I don't get excited about the main event match if either Jey versus Cody or Jey versus Gunther as much as I would have with half a dozen to a dozen other names. So I think, you're looking at a mid-main event at best, right? Or you're looking at not a main event. You're looking at a random title match in the middle of the card, which you can call it a main event all you want, WWE. If it's not at the end of the night, it's not the main event. So, Anyway, guys. This was a long one, but the Rumble matches are long, and there was a lot that happened. Let me know in the comments what you think of specifically Jey Uso. Yeah, Charlotte Flair makes a lot of sense. Jey Uso, a little less sense. Are you for it? Are you against it? Do you think it's going to live up to, that bar of WrestleMania main event? Let me know. Thanks for watching. And, we'll see you in the next one, guys.